This is a video just to give an indication of what minerals are involved in the mala. The order that I've got them here is kind of like a standard order. Most of them are kind of based on this sort of sequence, but because they're natural minerals, I've actually put them in a sort of colour order, and so I may have moved things around. There's quite a lot of variation between beads, so the chances that you've got something exactly like this are very slim, but at least you should be able to identify most of the beads. So I'll do them in sets of 5. The first bead, number 1, I don't know what it is, which is a good start. The next one's Dalmatian jasper. It's little black spots on a white background. The next one is cowrie fossil, and if you look very closely you'll see that they are in fact little beings, little mollusks and things. The next one is limestone fossil, so that's there won't be any detail on there, but that's the compacted bones of sea creatures. It's just sort of amorphous fossil. The next one is frosted cracked agate, and then we move to the next 5, and these are rose quartz, morganite, pink jade, pink rhodonite and dark rhodonite. So that's actually the same stuff, but rhodonite is generally like a mottled between black and also kind of like a very, very dark brown and pink. But the areas are quite large, so when you get little beads like this, it will either be pink or it will be dark. So I'll give them one or the other. The next 5, starting with 1, are rhodochrosite and sugarlite. Sugarlite or sugarlite, I'm not quite sure. Purple jade, alexandrite. It's sort of slightly, I don't know what you'd say, slightly translucent and mottled alexandrite, and natural tourmaline. And there's quite a bit of variation in those. They can be almost sort of red, like ruby, right the way through to sort of like this one is quite a mottled purple. So that may be here or it may be somewhere else. The next ones are amethyst, and the next one after that is an unknown bead. It might be a jade of some kind, or it might be a particularly dark amethyst. It looks black, but it is actually very, very dark purple. Then there's lepidolite, sodalite, and the last one, which is particularly beautiful, I find, is it's like a little world, swirly clouds. I don't know what that is. Then there's Brazilian aquamarine, blue cracked frost agate, chalcedony, moonstone, which is very iridescent, and again another dark, very dark blue, which I don't know what that is. These are blue tiger's eye, very iridescent, lapis lazuli, so it's opaque, blue striated agate, and that can be either almost translucent or it can be quite opaque, and it can also have lines in it, little white hair lines sort of through the material, like planes through the material. The next one is turquoise, and that sometimes has little black veins in it, sometimes doesn't, and it's opaque. And then ocean jasper, which is very, very detailed, and that can go from almost completely brown to almost completely blue. So that might not be here, depending on whether you've got a browner one or a blue one. The There's 3 beads which are unknown, a blue, a blue and a blue. And underneath that is green Amazon stone and sky jade. The green Amazon stone, that can actually be red or rusty coloured. So it might not be here, it might be somewhere in the brown section depending on how much is on that. Then there's Malaysian jade, which goes from a sort of milky colour. It can be a little bit yellow right the way through to what it is here, which is like a very light sky blue, almost white sky blue. Again, that may be in the yellow section depending on which way it ended up. There's green Amazon stone, which is actually kind of blue. African turquoise, which is a very kind of muddy, bluey, blacky, browny kind of thing with sometimes with some yellows, sometimes with some reds in. But I think most of them were pretty similar to this one, so it'll probably be around here. Then there's 2 unknown beads. One's kind of a slightly muddy, translucent, and then the other is a little bit iridescent. Then there's another unknown bead and nephrite below it, which is like a black with little tiny sparkles in it. There's, I think it's probably a jade, this one, this green one, kind of a muted, a matte surface green, sort of dull green. Then there's tiger's eye, green tiger's eye, and ruby zoist, or zoist, I'm not quite sure how it's pronounced. In these 5, there's smooth bloodstone, so that's kind of bloodstone where the green, light green, dark green, orange and red are kind of quite mixed in with each other in little patches. And then the green spot jasper, that may be almost clear, or it may be completely green like this one. So the spots are usually quite large, they're bigger than the beads. So if your bead was in the clear area, it will be clear, and if your bead was in the green area, it will be green, or you might get one that's half and half. Then there is mottled green jasper with a very slightly rough surface, because I think part of this actually reduces in size. It actually takes on liquid, so you can make it round and then it'll actually not be round after a while. Then there's malachite, which is, I think it's the raw material for copper, actually. There's a lot of copper inside it, which is where it gets the green colour from, the copper oxide. This is a bit of an infamous material because it does leak very small amounts of copper when left in water. So if you have this bead, if you decided to have this bead, it's best not to give it to babies or anything like that to suck on, or if you're in a very hot climate and you'll be sweating a lot and you've got, if copper jewellery affects your skin. But with that said, the amount of copper that comes from this is absolutely tiny, so it's generally not a problem at all. Then the last one is moss agate, a kind of blurry mottled finish. Then we've got green onyx. This can have a lot of very, very fine lines on it. It can be like pinstripes all over. It can also be quite large, sort of fuzzy areas that blend into each other. There's green spot jasper, which is kind of translucent and quite, it looks like it's crushed ice on the inside. There's green turquoise, dark moss agate, so this is the same as the previous moss agate, but it just varies in intensity from almost black like this one to sort of lighter one. So it's actually the same material, it's just kind of a different manifestation of it. And then there's aventurine. We've then got rutilated quartz, and this is quartz but with slight imperfections in, and the imperfections look like bubbles, tiny little bubbles, or sort of cracks. Sometimes this is coloured green, sometimes it's slightly coloured pink or yellow. I think most of the ones I've got are coloured green, and so it will be here, but it could be in the yellow or pink section, depending on if there's a particular hue to it. There's green jade, mottled green jasper, chrysoprase or chrysoprase, I'm not quite sure how to say it, and striated green turkey turquoise. Then we've got an unknown bead, don't know what that is, yellow turquoise, which has got this sort of black pigment to it that sort of sometimes it's quite dark and almost black entirely with little flecks of yellow, in which case it might be in the much darker end, but most of them I think have got a fair bit of yellow and will be around this area. There's citrine, an unknown bead, and then golden tridacna. Then we've got quartz, which should be pretty neutral, but I'll put it in the yellows because there's sometimes a little yellow hue to it. Lemon jade, amber, so this is tree sap, fossilised tree sap, scapolite and veined agate. So this is agate, but there's imperfections in it, and that's where a pigment has soaked into the sort of microscopic cracks of the material. There's yellow chrysidolite, which isn't actually yellow. There's bronzite, which is kind of sparkly. There's Tibetan agate, which is not, it doesn't actually naturally occur like that. They take agate and they leave it in a shallow pools of something, I don't even know what actually, and it changes the colour to this kind of golden area. So the area that's in the liquid turns sort of golden, sheeny, and then they keep, after a while, they lift it up and turn it round and do another spot and lift it up and turn it round and do another spot. So that's Tibetan agate. There's mottled picture jasper, and then right underneath it is light, a different kind of picture jasper. I mean, picture jasper varies so much that I sort of put two in because some are kind of white with brown flecks, some are brown with black flecks, and there can be all sorts of different sort of patterns in there. We've got Maligano jasper. We've got yellow fire agate, which is very fiery actually. It's particularly with some light behind it. There's some dragon vein agate, which again is a little bit like the veined agate, but it's the fractures are much closer together. There's amber jade, so that's not amber, that's jade, but it's an amber coloured jade. And there's yellow agate. Next we've got yellow orange turquoise. It's usually got little black veins in it. There's red fire agate, which varies considerably. It's white and a kind of it's kind of a cloudy white and a vibrant orange, and it can vary from almost completely white to almost completely orange. There's orange varicite, and again that can that's very detailed. You can get a microscope on that. It looks quite a lot of very intricate detail on that. Hickoryite, which it looks very much like wood, but it's not. It's just sedimentary rock. And red aventurine. Then we've got poppy jasper, brown sediment jasper, and that is quite varied again, brown sediment jasper. Orange carnelian, kind of smoky, browny red. Red tiger's eye, which is iridescent, it catches the light quite a bit. And at the bottom, leopard fur jasper, and that is, I mean, it can almost look like anything, to be honest. So at the top here we've got an unknown one. I have no idea what this is. It's actually got small pieces of metal in there, sort of silver, and then deep red, and it's opaque. I really have no idea what that is. If anybody has any guesses, please let me know. Then there's moorkite. Moorkite comes in a lot of different colours, in fact almost every colour, so it may well not be here. If there's a bead that you don't know what it is, it's probably moorkite. It'll be a matte finish, and it'll be generally quite plain. They don't come in very bright colours. Then there's red garnet. Underneath that is coffee jasper. It's like a brown coffee colour. And hyacinth. We've then got deep garnet. It's exactly the same as red garnet, but the hues in garnet can be quite varied, and this is probably one of the darkest you can get. There's dark bronzite, again same as the bronzite before, but this is much, much darker. It's sort of slightly sandy and sort of orangey or browny, and it's got a bit more iridescence to it. Tibetan agate stripe, so again this is the same as the previous agate, but instead of being in very shallow pools that change the colour, they have them deeper pools, and they do the top and the bottom, and then they leave this line in the middle. The next one is number 4. I don't know what that one is, and the one underneath it is volcanic ash. So these next few, they're all kind of black or very close to black, and they can almost be in any order because the hues do change a little bit. The number 1, the first one is obsidian. That's generally completely black. Then you've got rainbow obsidian, which has got a sort of sparkle like the light on the surface of the sea or something. It's like a little, as you move it round, you might see a particular grain to it. There's then lavakite, gold sheen obsidian, and sometimes that's quite difficult to see, just the sheen. It is very similar to obsidian. And nechrite, and nechrite has got lots of dead little creatures in, fossilised. And the last 3, which are 3, 4 and 5, we've already done 1 and 2. The last 3 are snowflake obsidian in number 3, lavakite, another kind of lavakite, but less iridescent. It's kind of a heavier colour, and spiderweb jasper, and that all have lots of very distinct lines all over it. Anyway, those are all the beads. I hope you like them. In terms of absolutely guaranteeing what these things are, it's actually very difficult, because largely the only way that you can effectively identify them is just by what they look like, actually. So these things haven't been chemically tested. They're just taken out of the ground, and people look at them and decide what they are. The ones that are unknown, I may have bought, and they may have, non-distinct or non-technical names. They're just described by the colour that they are. In those situations, I've just labelled them as unknown, because it would just be a little bit misleading, sort of giving you a name that isn't actually a name of a mineral. It's just something that somebody's called it who doesn't know what it is. Anyway, I hope you enjoy your beads, and let me know if there's any questions.